Everybody, how are you doing? It's Jaiya Victoria, the Energy Queen, and I'm so happy you're here watching this. Thank you so much, whether you're on Instagram or YouTube, or Facebook. I just want to say thank you for taking the time to come to this video because this is going to be a really life-changing video for you. I just got the inspiration to make it, and I know that it's going to be a really big thing. So, the next trend that I predict you're going to see in the spiritual community, if you follow like spirituality, especially online, it's kind of like we all go in waves and we all kind of learn about one thing at the same time. Have you noticed that? We'll all be like, the secret is feminine energy. And then everyone's like, it's not just feminine energy, you need your masculine. And so we're always going through these waves of kind of like consciousness, right? Or new ideas that are bringing us all forward. Um, to help create those ripple effects that kind of turn it into a wave are individual people like me who um have this like a special connection like to the energy world. Like that's our full-time job, for example. Like that's my full-time job, is clearing people's energy and seeing the energy world. So so it's something that I want to create a next ripple with this video, and that is I've already started seeing it. That's what I picked up on. And my clients are talking about it. And I was like, okay, time to put it out there. This is actually my New Year's resolution as well, was to start using the name of Jesus, because you are going to see people talking about Jesus in a totally new way. And it's an interesting topic, right? Because first of all, that is a triggering word for a lot of people, a triggering name for a lot of people, because there's an illusion surrounding it. So one of the first things that you're going to see is that the illusion of who we thought Jesus was is going to get broken down. So if you have any negative connotation or feeling that comes up when you hear the name Jesus, if it makes you go like, or like, I'm going to stop watching this, or, whatever it feels like, if it's negative, that's what's going to get dismantled and broken apart, because the truth of Jesus energetically is what's going to start coming out. And so that's the trend. You're going to see more about Jesus. You're going to see more about who he really is. You're going to see more about the energy aspect of who that is. And the old ways of seeing Jesus are going to be broken apart. And it's going to be super transformational in your life, because, well, that's why I made this video. So I'm going to go into my perspective on the energy of Jesus. And a little bit of background about me, so you know where I'm coming from, is I did grow up Catholic. I grew up Irish Catholic. I'm Irish on both sides of my family, fifth generation. We're in Ireland. Had to come over to the Americas because of the famine, like legit on both sides, my mom and my dad's side. So Irish Catholicism, bam, both sides lineage, deep in me. So I was brought to church. I was baptized. I was, we had like a community church that I grew up with, and that's where my grandfather went to church, and my grandmother, and almost all my grandparents. So that's deep in me, but as a soul, I find it really interesting that when I first started hearing about Jesus as a kid, I didn't understand it, to be honest. I don't know if it's because I was afraid of men. So a lot of your early experiences hearing about even Jesus could be even just, how did you feel about men? Were men scary? Were men nice? Like, it's all about like your relationship with your dad, your older brother, if you had one, any other men in your life, your grandfather. Those relationships have definitely influenced your idea of Jesus if you were taught about Jesus as a young child, because when you're a young child, you see Jesus, a picture of him, and you go, that's a man. So there are already assumptions that you've made about Jesus just based on, not even about Jesus, about how the people in your life behaved. So that's interesting, right? Because what I noticed when I was little was that I was scared a little bit of Jesus. So that wasn't about Jesus or the real energy of Jesus. It was about other people and the way that they behaved in my life that made me feel scared, obviously, for some reason. Um, so I'm just thinking if I should say who did what. Like my older brother was a little bit scary for me. I'll just say that. So I had a fear feeling when I heard about Jesus. And then I actually started to get confused when other kids around me were singing songs like Jesus Loves Me. I remember I was like, wait, you really believe that? Like, what? I thought that was just kind of like this like weird story people who are older than us, like all our parents tell us. I don't know who that is. And I always had this feeling, you might have this feeling too, like I hear the story and I get the story. I've been in the pageant, I get he was born in a manger, he grew up, he was a carpenter, he died on the cross for our sins, voila. And then he rose again, obviously. Like that basic story, it's like kind of like you're like, okay, I get it. Um, and in the background, she's just being loud. So, but yeah, so you might have known the story but not felt like you knew the person. And I think the weird thing as a kid that can happen is that, and that definitely happened for me, it may have happened for you, is, and maybe you've never even heard anybody say this before or admit this before. So I hope this is healing already for you to just hear like it's normal if you felt like, I don't know Jesus, I don't know who he is, I don't really understand what this is about. And I feel the feeling of God, I feel like kids can get with that. Like you feel love and you understand love and you understand good and you understand things you like, like those things you feel. But when you're just being told this story, it's like I don't really get who that guy is and what that has to do with me and the way I feel, right? So I think there can be a disconnect even when when you grew up in the church because you can go along with it and you can act like you understand like yeah I get Jesus and I feel or some maybe you did feel his presence and maybe you did understand him energetically, but I know for me I was like I don't know who that is, and I'm just going to go along with this because it sounds legit, you guys all believe it. um, Kittens. I have more than one kitten, so hopefully my little boy kitten will be quieter. So anyway, so there's the story and then there's your experience, right? And so it's about were you able to meld the two? And I find what happens for a lot of people is like you're obedient as a child. So you go along with it. You go through the traditions. If you grew up Catholic, you get confirmed. You go through all the steps. My brothers, I have four brothers, so we all went through those steps. But I would say now we all have very different relationships and views of who Jesus is, which is interesting because it does come down to your personal experience, right? With who is that energy. So nobody can really give you faith in Jesus because you have to experience it to understand it. And I feel like that's the number one mistake a lot of religions who are trying to get you to believe in Jesus, or even people yelling at you on the street or wherever they are. I live in New York, so I see that a lot. I feel like that's not the way to convince people because it's like you can't really, I feel like sharing your own story of transformation about Jesus and using that name, which is a powerful name, like that's honestly what inspired me to do this video because I kept seeing people say it so many different places and I was like that's what works. You say the transformation that you've had because of Jesus, um and that's a personal thing. That's not something that you can ever come to by people trying to hammer a belief into you just because it's like, well, why are you even doing that? I always feel like it's just like because they don't really believe and they just want to, I don't know, feel like they're doing something good by making everybody else believe. Like you can't make people believe anything. Everybody has their own beliefs. But I know from my own experience, what inspired me the most was when I would see the great things people would do, And then they would say it's because of Jesus. And so I would know, well, they must have a real relationship with that energy that has supported them through so many trials that we don't even know about, but they made it. And look, they made it because of Jesus. And they're testifying, basically, they're telling us that's how they did it. So that's a very different way of talking about Jesus than kind of shaming people or making them feel like they're going to go to hell if they don't believe, like I feel like it's very, very different. And so I'm going to speak a bit about the energy of Jesus that I've encountered and that I actually rely on, just like those people. Like, this is my testimony, basically. But I wanted to let you know that that's where it's coming from. It's not coming from necessarily the church, even though that is my background. I'm grateful for my background. It definitely has influenced me. But it's like your spirit is the one that either opens up to that, experiences it, or doesn't. And I think that's what really gives you a real connection. It's not because you were told 100 times to believe something. It's because you felt it in your soul, and those are the times when I've developed my faith the most. Um, so yeah, going to church can be a good thing, but it's really what is your soul experience while you're there? That's what's really going to give you real faith. So, okay, the energy of Jesus is very interesting. So what happened for me was um, in my early 20s, I almost died from Lyme disease. I basically had a near death experience because people do die from it. And I was just listening to a podcast today talking about how all these spiritual abilities can open up when you go through an NDE, a near death experience. And that's exactly what happened for me. I developed the ability to be psychic, to read energy, to see the future. Those were all real things that started happening to me. And I started seeing energy in the world, light and dark. And I would watch it. And I was just like, there's no explanation for this. I don't know who to ask. And this was back in 2012, 2013. Yeah, like people didn't even talk about crystals back then, So I was like, I'm just gonna kind of go along the ride. I don't really know where this is going, but I was always someone who prayed a lot, I think I had faith. And actually, what saved my life originally when I was going through the worst of that illness, which ravages your entire body, your brain, the doctors didn't even know I had it. So they just kept telling me to eat healthy and exercise. And when you exercise with Lyme disease, you can die. Your heart can give out. So I was in a dangerous spot. I knew it. I felt it. I would go to the ER every Saturday night with my mom. I would go to the doctor as much as they would let me. On the door of the doctor's office, it said you can talk about 3 issues. And I had 70, over 70, 70. So it was frustrating for sure. And I felt alone. And at one point, when I had tried literally everything, medical, non-medical, naturopath, like Reiki, I looked into everything, trying to find an answer. How do I feel better? What is the actual problem? I went through years of this. Couldn't go outside, couldn't go to school. I had anxiety from the Lyme disease in my brain so badly I couldn't hardly do anything. I lived that life every day, but I never stopped looking for answers. I would read books, I would listen to podcasts, I was, watch Oprah, like whatever I could do. And it was Jesus for me that took me out of that, because my mom had bought this gigantic poster of the Divine Mercy, which you can look up the story of the Divine Mercy. It's really interesting. But Jesus appeared to a nun in Poland in the 1930s. I think it was Poland. Yeah, in the 1930s. And she became a saint, Saint Faustina. And my mom just put this gigantic, almost like life-size poster of that image that he had her paint or get painted of him. And the image was called Divine Mercy. And it was a ray of white and a ray of red coming out of his heart, which represented the water and the blood that flowed from his body when he was on the cross, which was like a miraculous thing, like water and blood came out when they cut him, I think on his heart. And so I put that above my bed because I think I had a sense have how bad it was. Like you kind of know when you're dying. I couldn't really like even walk very well anymore. And there's a point where you kind of just you have to give it to God because you don't know what else to do. And that's what I did. I put it above my bed and I thought, it's kind of a last resort, and it's just one more thing that I'm going to try because I'm never going to stop trying to feel better. I know there's an answer. I just can't find it. But I knew there would be an answer. And yeah, it was right after I started doing that um, my mom heard someone on the radio I went to high school with who had Lyme disease, and she said, it just sounds like you. And so we looked at that, and that was the answer. And I had another chance at life, basically. I got a diagnosis, I got to live, I got to feel better. It gave me life, to know what I had and how to treat it, period. And I was 26. And yeah, kind of born again, if you will. So my spiritual abilities opened up, but also I was like, I saw what happened. I saw what happened. I saw that before I put the poster above my bed and started asking him directly for help, this guy, Jesus, I couldn't do it. But with him, I did. And it was like night and day. It was like, here you go. And I asked and I got it. So those are the kind of things that are going to create faith for you. Those are the kind of things that are going to teach you who is this actual energy, right? Not just the story that was told, not just the things that people have said around me or the judgments of society or the fear of society or whatever is there that comes up with the name of Jesus. Who is that when I interact with that energy in the energy world? What happens in my life? That's what's going to transform things for you. And again, this was coming from me, who as a kid, I didn't even really get what Jesus was about. I was sort of like, I get God. I liked Mary. She's a lady. But like, I don't really get this guy who's like bleeding, kind of scary. I don't really get it, but I understand the story, So that's how I felt. And then things like this started to come into my life where it was like, oh, like you're real. Oh, okay. You actually helped me. And you were the one that helped me. I went to every doctor. I went to everybody. No one could help me, but you did. And I knew that you did because I didn't get help until I asked you. Right. So that starts to make you go like, wait a second, there's something different going on here about this guy. And it was unique too, because it wasn't just praying to God, it was to that guy, that's what really caught my attention. It was like this guy, he helped me in a really big way, in a way that nobody else could, and in a life or death scenario, you know and I know that it was life or death because how would my spiritual abilities have opened up that much if it wasn't a near death experience? So that's a big testimony right there, right? But that was only the beginning. And I started to really just get curious, about all the things I started to see and experience. And I knew that Jesus was real because of that. And so I just sort of stayed open. And things evolved and evolved and evolved. And I went on to journalism school. I got my degree, started becoming a freelance writer. And, I kind of just was like, I'm going to live my life. I had a boyfriend and just kind of, okay, this is what people do, make it work. And things started to get weird, let's say. It just started to get really weird. Because it's hard to explain, especially in a few minutes on a video, but like I started to see glimpses of the bigger picture. So one of the abilities I have is we all have our perception as a human, but at times I will just pop up and get the bigger picture, like the way God sees everything. So you see more information, you see things differently. It's sort of like we're all one puzzle piece, but then what if you popped up and you saw all the puzzle and you knew where the piece went? You see more as that view. So I would get these pops of like seeing things. This still happens to me. And I don't know how to control it yet. It just happens. Um, but it's always right. I knew that it's always going to be the truth. And I started to see like I was in the wrong life, basically. And it started to get so intense in the fall of 2018 that I had full days that felt like deja vu all day. And they were basically telling me, you're in the wrong life. You're just in the wrong place. You're doing the wrong thing. And I was like, oh God. But I thought I'm doing the right thing based on what everybody expects of me. And I had to do scary things. Like I had to break up with that boyfriend. We had been together for 3 years. I thought we might get married. It was like, no, not the right guy. Had to let him go, because of these pops in conception. Um, and then I was led to basically, it's so crazy. I was basically in the totally wrong life of where I was supposed to be, living in Canada, just trying to make ends meet, freelance journalist, working retail um, during the day. And yeah, you're in the wrong life, clear as day. And I knew I had to listen to it. I didn't know what to do with it, but I knew that it was real. And it would just get so intense sometimes that it sort of culminated in this moment where I felt so overwhelmed. And I remember laying on my bed and I remember, I'm very in tune with energy. And I remember laying there and feeling like I went to a dark place and it felt like what hell is. And you know what hell is energetically, it's just being disconnected from God. And so I went to that place. I don't know why. It's like I was shown that place and it was just a feeling of doesn't matter how many times you pray, how much you ask, he's not there. It's like you're separated. And that was the scariest feeling because you're so alone. You have no power. You're just alone and he's not there. That was the feeling I had. And I was like shown that feeling. And it was very disturbing, to feel that in my soul. And I laid there and I just felt it. I didn't know what to do. And I kept praying, I kept asking, but it kind of just felt like it didn't go anywhere. The prayers, the asking didn't go anywhere or help. And then what happened was all of a sudden, like, bam. And I knew that was the energy of the resurrection. Just like that. It's over. It's done. It's better. Forever. And in that moment, it's like I was spiritually shown, energetically shown the energy that happened. And I was given the knowledge in that moment. It already happened 2,000 years ago. So that story that we're taught when we're little about who Jesus is a real energetic occurrence that occurred on this planet. It set up a pattern in the universe where you can never go into that dark place of fear, of separation from God. Think of all the worries, all the doubts that you have in your life right now. That's the experience of negativity or hell. And it will never have the final say because 2,000 years ago, bam, he cleared it all. So I got the knowledge right there and then energetically again. This wasn't me at church. It was me as an energetic expert at that point, experiencing the energy of Jesus, which was this pattern was set up in the universe where you can never go there and totally be separated. The resurrection already brought you back because the resurrection, that's the pattern that it created energetically with all negativity. There's the potential to rise into positivity and life again and the solution again, just like I did with Lyme disease into life. I think that's why I experienced it actually dying, living like myself, because it was that real. So what does this mean for you? It means that every negative thing in your life is not going to stay that way if you rely on the power and the energy of the resurrection. It's just the potential is always going to be there. It's like it's just always there. And so there's no point ever really going into fear because you're always going to resurrect. Always. Like it literally happened 2,000 years ago. So It was the coolest thing. It felt like this is why we love pop culture. This is why we love when Madonna comes back or Beyonce comes back or anybody comes back, with a new album or Taylor Swift. Like it's the resurrection that we are obsessed with, or a glow up. Like you can see it everywhere in our lives. We are obsessed with the resurrection energy because that's the truth behind reality, is that you will never stay in that negative place. And anybody who is staying in a negative place, that's an illusion that they have to stay there. They could choose at any time to resurrect. You could choose to resurrect at any time out of the darkness, wherever it is, inside of you, in your soul. I even did it physically. I got better because of the energy of Jesus, who is the energy of resurrection. You know what I mean? It's always going to be there. It's there right now. It's just waiting for you to say, help me, help me. I need you. Get me out of this. I believe I need to get into the light again with this thing in my life. And I actually heard one time something that makes me think of the way we are with darkness. And it was my older brother coming home one night. He was out partying or something. I think it was the holidays, and he was a student and he had a laptop with like all his master's thesis work on it. And he got out of the cab late at night. He must have had a backpack that had it in it, and he was with him. And he came back, and I heard him realize, it makes me laugh now, like 3 a.m., probably a little drunk, that he had left his backpack in the cab. I think he even called someone. He was telling them about it, and he was like, "It's all over. It's all over." Because I think everything was on that laptop. And I remember hearing in his voice the despair, and that's the experience of hell that I explained, the negativity, the separation from God. There's no hope, none. I could hear it, and I knew, though, you're going to get the laptop, so there's no need to go into despair when you're going to get it. And he did. He got it back. So why? It made me think, like, yeah, we do this, don't we? We like go into despair, but we don't need to. And that's what the resurrection teaches us, that you don't need to go into despair because of the resurrection, because everything can resurrect. Every negative energy can resurrect into a positive outcome, every single one. And I like to call it kind of like little deaths. It's like we almost think we're going to die because of this thing, but you're not. And another thing about the resurrection energy is that, how did that work energetically, right? I work with energy, so I was curious about this. And I saw that what Jesus did on the cross, why that was such a big deal, why we set up our holidays around it, even though we all have different beliefs, it's like the year is kind of like, there's going to be Easter and Christmas. Like it's a big deal to us still, but why? Because energetically, it was the biggest deal. Okay, so when he died, it was, I think, beyond what we can even imagine, because it wasn't just physical pain, it was spiritual, that experience of hell, which is negativity, which is despair. And he somehow took all of it on. And that was the suffering that he contained, was the negative energy, all the negative frequencies that ever could occur, that we basically choose to participate with, believing in fear, believing in illusions, believing in negative things. He took all that on somehow energetically, and he died. And it was the resurrection, though, where he cleared it all. I even did the cross. He cleared it all. And the cross is also the image of unification between the masculine, feminine, which are the left or the right and the left side, and heaven and earth. So it's about unity, so we're talking about masculine, feminine, like I told you, the trends going on. But this is about the resurrection. That's the real trend. That's not really a trend. It's always been there, but this is the big thing that's going to transform your life, is when you start relying tapping into that energy that is literally built into every morsel of reality around you. He set it up when he resurrected. It was the biggest deal because that changed everything. So everything, when you think about the story of Jesus, I have so much more to say. I'll have to do a part two. But when you think about the energy of Jesus, think about how hard it was for him to even be alive. Like at one point, all the male babies were slain in a certain area because they heard that he was there. Like people were trying to kill him, trying to punish him his whole life. It was by God's grace that he even was allowed to do this for us, to die and resurrect. And so when you think about Jesus, I want you to think about one word, which is in the Bible. God is love. Love. That's the only thing that he really is. So if you have ever experienced love, that's all that is, or hope or positivity. Like that's who he was. And he hung out with the people who all the rules said you're not supposed to hang out with. He ticked off a lot of religious people. You know, he was from the heart. He was courageous. He was honest. He was the spirit of love. So, whenever you feel that spirit, that is the real identity of Jesus. That is the energetic identity of Jesus. That is literally who we're talking about when we say the name Jesus. And it's a powerful name to say. It's a controversial name because, you know, I don't even know. But well, I'm sure lots of reasons, but that's the energetic identity. And again, I'm saying this from a place of I wasn't taught this even in church. This was something I discovered through looking at the energy, experiencing the transformation in my life that was real from connecting with this specific energy. And so, connecting with the energy of Jesus, getting to know the energy of Jesus, which contains the energy of resurrection, that's what we're all looking for, and it's everywhere around you and it's right beside you all the time. And I think it's our own perceptions, our own fears. That's the negative energy agenda trying to get you to say, well, I'm not religious, so I'm not going to talk about Jesus. I'm not going to pray. You know, oh, I'm more spiritual. It doesn't matter. This energy is the energy of existence. The resurrection is behind every morsel of reality. And this fierce power of love is the nature of existence. And the name of it is Jesus. So let's break those illusions apart. Let's not let negative energy get in the way of you and that, because that's who you are. That's your birthright. That's, you know, when we say like, it's your birthright to be wealthy. It's your birthright to have your dreams come true. It is, because that's the resurrected version of you. You've been through a lot of dark things in your life. Isn't it about time you resurrect? That's what Jesus gives you energetically. So I'm not preaching that you have to believe a certain thing, but I want you to experiment with your own life, because I know for me, that's how I learned. No, people could tell me about Jesus my whole life. I didn't get it until I experienced it energetically. And I saw what changed in my life. And this is the way that I actually clear negative energy with my work, Energy Queen Alchemy, because of the resurrection. Because when I saw that so clearly energetically, that he was the one who already dissolved the negativity, it was like they're all the negative things in your life. It's just like soil where a flower can grow. I was like, oh, he already did it. All I have to do is believe that he already did it. And I do, because of the experiences I told you about. And I can get rid of negative energy like that in people. They transform. And most of my clients don't even know that I'm using the resurrection to do it. But that's the most powerful energy. And that's what we're all looking for. Your soul will never stop searching for this answer. And I'm giving it to you right now, because whatever judgments, again, or, you know, like things that hold you back from embracing that energy or that name, they're not on your side, because this is literally who you are. And you're going to feel it in your soul as I talk. Things also might get triggered. Negative energy might get mad at me or whatever, but you're going to be able to feel the positivity and the truth. And so start to experiment with communicating with the energy of Jesus, which is real. And the other cool thing I'll leave you on, Jesus, is that he rose into heaven, his body rose. So he is still in a physical body. That's how real of a person he still is. He didn't die, he wasn't buried on earth. He ascended into heaven. So he's a physical being, a physical person that you literally can talk to like a physical person because he is. So I hope that helped. Thank you for listening. Pretty big topic, but I'm super glad we did it. And this is the biggest trend I see for 2024 and beyond. People talking more about the energy of Jesus. Who is it really? And the energy of resurrection, of course, which is what we're all trying to do with the healing, with the transforming, with the up leveling, the glow up, and the coming back. So thanks for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.